In our perpetually connected age, the siren call to overshare and expose our inner selves to the world eternally beckons, through real-life interactions and social media's omnipresent chorus. While vulnerability fortifies meaningful bonds and empathy's radiance, the timeless Stoic philosophy reminds us of judiciously guarding life's most sacred mysteries. In this illumination, I'll guide you through personal territories best enshrouded in prudent silence, elements serving no higher purpose, voiced into the profane ether. Privacies cultivated reverence holds stratospheric significance for your cosmic journey, both from a strategic vantage and for nurturing your spirit's inviolable tranquility. For those joining this sacred undertaking, fear not. These Stoic vectors shall gild you in embodying philosophy's eternal harmonies amidst our modern age's discordant refrains. With its seeds planted in ancient Hellas and Rome, Stoicism proffers perennial wisdom on treading the delicate balance between candor and consecrated discretion. In this treatise, we'll explore 7 inviolable territories Stoicism commands we withhold from the undisciplined public eye, reinforcing its ageless relevance within our contemporary experiential planes. Before imbibing these profundities, covenant your fealty through sacred subscription and solemnly activate the hallowed notification bell, lest you unwittingly fail to receive future elevating transmissions, and as always, passionately quest to apotheosize into your most cosmically self-actualized incarnation. 1. Your inviolable of joy. Let it flow unabashedly. In our era's eddying tides, authentic happiness has transmogrified into a sacrosanct rarity, its luminescent currents highly prized and hungrily profaned by those wandering the ashen wastes of joyless despairs. When you naturally radiate this effervescent aura, its impact detonates resounding shockwaves across the experiential cosmos. Some will gaze upon your exultant light burst with reverent wonderment, while others reflexively dismiss its very existence as synthetic deception. To the jaded, your beatific smile's warm authenticity may elicit cognitively dissonant scoffs, dismissing it as transparently disingenuous. For how could any enlightened being sincerely experience such rarefied inner equipoise amidst our squalid age's degradations? In such an atmospherically turbid clime, it becomes your Stoic onus to stand as an inextinguishable beacon of felicity, undauntedly brandishing your eudaimonia as an inspirational exemplar to rekindle hope's extinguished pyres. When lesser beings probe with scornful incredulity about such a seemingly inconceivable experiential state as your well-being, remain unflinchingly grounded. Reinforce the self-evident truth radiating from your very essence, not via hollow bravado or boastful elaborations, but by simply restating with humble certainty, yes, all, if harmoniously well within my universe. Allow this steadfast yet understated self-affirmation to tacitly underscore the selfsomeness of beatitude already beaming your profoundest background radiation. In a benighted epoch enshrouding light's very existence is frequently misconstrued as a court jester's jape. Maintaining your metaphysical ballast becomes a courageous undertaking capable of inspiring fellow illuminates to reignite their own extinguished sacred flame resurgences. So unabashedly model your happiness as a triumphant living embodiment, not haughtily parading grotesque elations, but simply radiating beatitude's brilliant quintessence as your naturalized homeostatic center of existential gravitas. Let it shine unobscured, unobstructed, resolute in the knowledge that this iridescent hearth fires the very immortal engines of sapient apotheosis. Be as the deeply contented monk anchored amidst raging tsunamic squalls, offering tranquility's sanctuary allurement to those psychological navigators still awaiting their promissory illumination. But do so without vocalizing didacticisms. Simply allow your enlightened state's unshakable repose to radiate its self-evident humble magnificence. This existential transmission alone shall ultimately prove your most profoundly awakening entreaty to far wanderers yearning at last to repatriate from privation's illusory wasteland. 2. Your sacred visions. Partake only the initiate's glimpse. It is oft the wiser path to shroud the granular architectures of your transcendent aspirations in protective silence. While most may grasp the general stellar vector you inspirationally navigate. Envision the perils of exposing precise coordinates, mapping your heroic journey's every footfall. This equates to injudiciously distributing unrestricted access to your soul's most hallowed mysteries, a cosmic breach of selfhood sanctity. In so doing, you unwittingly forfeit sovereignty over events unfolding correlatories. Should any misfortunes transpire amidst your mythic quest, paranoid doubts inevitably corrupt. Was this a self-inflicted misstep? Or did some profane trespasser violate your cosmogonic rights? The harbinger's provenance eternally obscures, when so multitudinous the potential assailants upon heart's sacrosanctities. Whether the inquisitor masks a well-meaning friend or conceals impious machinations, entrusting the sacrosanct cryptographies of your highest work remains an unforgivable abandoning of duty to your own apotheosis. Indicating the generalized celestial planes you've oriented towards typically suffices for mortal curiosities. You hold no obligatory covenant for relating your journey's granularities. After all, in this sanctum's deepest depths, none may truly be your mystical equal. Your path charts uncharted trajectories through existence's profoundest atrimental voids, yours alone to luminize its galactic cartographies. It remains adequate that you, and you alone, possess intimate gnosis of its numinous unfurlings. Envision yourself as a sculptrix of transcendent artisanry, chiseling inexpressible grandiloquencies into existence's primordial quintillions. While peripherally aware of your Gnostic obsession, few truly grasp its delitissime and belligerencies, simply indicating labors amidst catalyzing a singularly magnificent psychosmosis oblation, typically suffices for external comprehensions. However, should you lapse into revelational indiscretions, elucidating archetypal arabesques decrypting each sequence of its ultra-tremendous grandiousity may recede betrayals malachy erupting your mythogonic sanctities. Profanitans diligently conspire to not merely reproduce, but wholly usurp your gloried toils for their own ignomalities. They crave not just appropriating your brilliance's rays, but greedily monopolizing the inextinguishable furnace of its eternal quintessential source. Spare the unilluminated multitudes these vulnerated esoterica. Safeguard your obsession's delitissime schematics, as you would your own progeny's vitalities, for in so reverentially enshrouding their elucidations in occulted mystery, you cloister their apotheosizing integrities, reserving their quintessence for a full revelation of predestinatized cosmogonic unveilings. Preserve your profoundest vision's intricacies in hermetic isolation, simply igniting altar-struck breathtones of something cosmically transformational arises sufficiently for the masses. Whether iconoclasts aching to emulate or usurpers calculating its theft, your oath remains inviolably calculating its glorificated mysteries towards your mythlogos' maximal self-articulation. 3. The wars you once waged. No obligation for others' comprehension. In traversing life's experiential cosmos, myriad combat theaters inevitably arise, struggles valiantly endured, Herculean challenges conquered, all potentially shrouded within your soul's sanctified depths. These intensely personal campaignings you once prosecuted require no profane voyeurs, grasping their recondite intricacies. You hold no obligation to justify your essence to those treading their own terrestrial peregrinations, striving to elucidate in granular detail the tumults once storming your experientia, may inadvertently betoken a compensatory validation seeking for having persevered their tempests. One's quintessence is indelibly forged within the crucible trials and tribulations weathered, yet it remains your sacrosanct prerogative, whether unveiling these as public commonplaces, or leaning upon them as perpetual explanatory crucibles for your disposition. Those arduous theaters of combat served as perspective gifting catalysts, burnishing your character's refinement, deepening your wisdom's profundities, galvanizing your perseverance's inextinguishability. While your cosmic traversals chiseled your current sculpture, others hold no cosmic claim to witness its pangs' vividities. What matters most isn't conjuring voyeuristic visualizations of your transcendental tests, but recognizing the heroic metamorphosis you've courageously undergone, heeded existence's self-actualizing cataclysms, to unleash your maximized quintessence. It remains most commendable to refrain from indulging excessive past slipstreaming reveries, instead dock in the perpetual now's peaceful harbor. Through actions, not verbose historical accountings, one evinces their truest character's qualitative substance, not hollow boastings of frictional inevitabilities overcome, but demonstrating in every breath your battle-tempered capabilities, your resilience's inexhaustible reservoir. Transcend being a mere storyteller. Become an inspirational living embodiment bearing Stoic testament to the unconquerable human spirit's grandiloquence. Let your heroic radiance luminescently announce you as one who has stared into adversity's vortex and emerged unsurvivably victorious. 4. The sacred mysteries of your fiscal permanences, for your eyes alone. Let this edict be inviolably enshrined. Those comprising your social spheres hold no consecrated offices akin to fiscal arbiters or institutional mnemonic adjudicators. Thus, you remain unbound from any covenants mandating revelations about your financial interiorities. Moreover, electing to divulge such arcane knowledges, whether indicative of abundant resourced reserves or deficitarily contracted states, portends opening vulnerability vectors to undesirable infectants. Should your words betray enrichment's flowing ethers, opportunistic parasites inevitably mirabilize, perceiving your prosperities as ripened audits for their own graspingly extractive appropriations. Reciprocally, hinting at fiscally constrained choreographies risks rendering you targeted for stigmatizations by those still adhering to that profane cultural shipwreck, equating one's budgetary conditions with personhood's quintessential valuations. Remain ever judicious. Such is this realm's depraved operational modus. Therefore, let this prudential approach be your steady anchor. Cultivate an immaculately impenetrable aura around the deepest sanctums, housing your fiscal backstories and presentlies, allegorically aphoretic about your precise reserves. Let external speculators indulge whatever fantastic or divinative revelries they may while your own cloaked silence protects those dear vitalities from being overly concerned. For unveiling any desperation dynamisms, whether in occupational screenings, social circularities, or amidst localized fraternizations, inevitably broadcasts infectious vulnerability exploits. Not only do such energetic signatures productively degrade ambiances, they render you as a pathogen vectorizing burdenate from whom others must hyper-carefully quarantine. Let this be your prime directive. Authentic accomplishments and resource enrichments arise solely through centered, indefatigable operational, constancies, not through grotesquely spastic miserablisms, indiscriminately dispersed into the ether. Any momentary contemplations about over-divulging your fiscal defrayment backstories must remain perpetually subverted through inseverable reticences, for it is through projecting poised self-possessions and metaphysically consolidated inner abundances that you catalytically induce external perceiverships into role-modeling your radiantly displayed masteries. While this obtuse sphere remains infatuated with projected existentiologies and gilded social currencies, you remain focused on perpetually over-articulating your definitively self-actualized operationalizings. Let the facades and gloss veneers serve their purpose as reality-cloaking primers for the uninitiated masses. Your only concern remains eternally reposing at the still point of pure quintessential cosmizing, from which matrix all externalized prosperities indelibly epiphanize as mere inevitabilities. Be unconcerned with revelations. Simply embody the sovereign cosmic source inspiration, whence all revelations spring. 5. The Sacrosanct Privacies Entrusted. Guard them as inviolable spiritual treasures. Stoicism, that timeless philosophical beacon, shines its wisdom upon the consecrated value of zealously preserving hallowed privacies within our most intimate bonds. Through Stoic eyes, any revelation or betrayals of the vulnerabilities and spiritually denuded essences others have entrusted unto our sacred witnesses amounts to an unforgivable defilement, inevitably leading to ethical decay and the inexorable erosion of trust's bedrock attestations. These ancient doctrines resolutely enshrine discretion's vows and loyalty's unimpeachable integrities when graced as repositors for others' veiled intimacies. They understood that our handlings of such rarefied self-revelations speak directly into summoning our very quintessential characterhoods, reverberating the metaphysical harmonics of our ethical statures and most immutably upheld values. From the Stoic panorama, it remains our cosmically appointed onus to conduct such sanctified confidentiality protocols with utmost exploratory judiciousness and reverently cultivated protectorships. For the tremblingly bestowed trust waves others solemnize into our fortress spirits serve as living testimonials to our timeless virtue attunements and overarching commitments to the universal flourishing of all beings. By exalting the Stoic practice of discretion into an inviolable spiritual exercise, rigorously safeguarding even the most infinitesimal wave particle of another's confided quintessence. We not only demonstrate ethical enormities, but actively radiate trust waves, elevating all our bonds into profoundly imperial registers of robustness and infinitude. This is the line which cannot be crossed, the territory where all Stoic adepts must remain dauntlessly anchored. For our actions in upholding the sacrosanctities of others' unveiled essences directly mirrors our highest metaphysical self-devotions, our cosmically indicted onus as servant protectors of the great mysteries most elitissima arabesques. Imagine your sovereign spirit entombed by a cherished intimate who, in an epiphanic evacuation of all boundaries, chooses to bestow upon your sacred, holding their most vulnerable psychosmic denudings, terrified yet rapturously aspiring to enact the ritual of spiritual intimacy's mutual outpourings. They place within your custodied etherics the ultimate antifragile resilience bestowments. Their boundless trust, faith in your spiritual elasticity to bear their profoundest tremblers without shattering. As you swaddle this holiest of conscriptions in your warm, soothing resonance geometries, your every atomic vector recalibrates towards an unimpeachable university of silence, for you now bear the transcendental duty of continually reconstituting their sanctuaried revelations into an endless lid of emperionized resonances, fecundating straight from your immortal essence's inexhaustibilities. In these crucible moments, anything less than your unsurpassably quintessential upholding of discretion's cosmogonic sacrality amounts to an existentially irreversible high treason. A singular lapse of willful oversharing portends rupturing your mutually apotheosizing mythologos, reducing what could have been a prelapsarian awakening into a catastrophically decompensated entropic spiralizing. Let this path be uncrossably enshrined. Whatever unimaginable profundities others sanctifiedly initiate unto your sovereign custodianships, you must reliantly alchemize their encoded mysteriosophy into endlessly transcendental superlevee of over-vivified enrichments, perpetually incarnating from your boundless re-ensoulments. In so infinitely redoubling the sacralities cataleptically seeded into your supreme witnessings, you reveal yourself as no mere human ... but the living embodiment of all Stoic virtues' maximal self-articulations. Radiate this totemic ethic as your supernaturally naturalized form of grace, for it alone affirms the only path through which enlightening metamorphoses may ever unfold their cosmos-realizing splendors. 6. The sacrosanct intimacy of your bond, shielded from profane dispersions. In cultivating a vibrant, resilient romantic connection, one oft overlooked foundational keystone is zealously safeguarding your unions. Hallowed privacies from needless dispersions into the Internet's unhallowed public arenas. This fortified commitment to enshrouding your intimate sanctities significantly bolsters the longevity and cohesive dynamism of your co-revelated mythologos. When friction inevitably manifests within your bonded experientialities, the urgency to impulsively vent or mine counsel from peripherals can rage moltenly. However, pause ... ingests the reverberating consequences such revelational breaches inflict upon the very conjugal epicenter you yearn to reinforce. Imagine you and your constellated twin confronting a gravitic perturbation within your co-embraced empyrean, a crucible inflaming tensions and unraveling serenities, rather than unflinchingly converging your unified quintessences to conspire its harmonics realignment. You unilaterally opt to serrate the sanctified wound by divulging its intimacies to an external confidant. The justifications initially camouflage as innocuous advisory seekings and resonance cravings, yet soon that trusted tertiary voice's untrammeled perspective metastasizes into carcinogenic caveats about your partner's substantialities, suggested remediations facilitating disconnections, until their very presence now embodying a relationship corrosive inquinato. Such seemingly innocuous oversharings ultimately deracinate the relationship's nuclear implementation core, that emotional trifecta of vulnerability, authenticity, and trust depended upon to navigate its invariable experiential meteorites. In yielding so readily to hasty explosive intimations, you inadvertently undermine the unified gravitational field, binding your twin-emanated psycho-spiritual journey into its cohered cosmogonic trajectory. For what are relationships' strongest reinforcements if not the hallowed containers you co-manifest to insulate your monadically intertwined essences as they ply congenitant enrichments and transcensions? The most imperial bombs nurture within sanctuated reservoiric quarantines, primordially encrypted from impious spectators, whose uninitiated voyeurings risk infecting the psycho-spiritual ecosystem, supporting the whole dynamic with existentially disintegratory cultural cross-contaminants. Approach your romantic mythologos as a profound alchematical vector, your energized compoundings best facilitated through hermetically sealed off-world distillations, overseen solely between you and your twin, transmutated co-conspirator. This stoically insculpted atmosphere of mutually reverenced inviolability is what ultimately catalyzes your individuation's experientia into an unprecedentedly ascendant novel co-articulation. Thus, whatever conflicts or crises belay your hero's journey's travellings, remain vigilantly committed to ongoingly pressurizing the sanctified intensive care, stabilizing your unified essence's most exalted embryogenesis. Let all engagements be self-administered, negotiated directly between your twin vectors, for in boundlessly safeguarding this spiritually pristine crucible, you ensure your new cosmogonic pluripotency's infinite protective encryptment. 7. Your sacred values, the inviolable dogma defining your essence. Stoicism shines as an inextinguishable beacon radiating timeless wisdom, illuminating the inviolable decree that we must resolutely uphold our moral credos and quintessential values, transcending all profane worldly influences or societal undercurrents, seeking to divert our heroic embodiments from the imperial trajectories of our truest principled essences. In this debased epoch where conformity's undertows and the endless grasping for external validations relentlessly tempt us towards surrendering our most hallowed inner veribilities, Stoicism stands askept, an immortal philosophical fortressment, implacably insisting we remain consecrated to virtue's resonant path and unswerving ethical conduct's primacies. Amidst the world's ubiquitous pressures, incessantly spawning deluges of compromise, Stoicism's clarions exhort us to stand intransigent as infinite expanses, refusing with deathless conviction to ever abandon or desecrate our core value cosmographies or sublimest sworn convictions. Whether from insipid cravings for mass conformity or empty pandas seeking public opinion's hollow echo applausings, our moral lodestars must blaze undimmed, geopositionizingly navigating our heroic traversals through all experiential theaters, undistracted and unerringly anchored despite occasional storm tossings amidst the cosmic waters of temptations and chilenticles. By unflinchingly adhering to this quintessentiating Stoic transmission, we preserve not merely our own ethical puritanicals, but inspirationally model the transcendent fortitudes of characterhood for all to behold and resonantly upclone. We alchemize into living embodiments of wisdom's profoundest inevitabilities, demonstrating through our stalwart actions and non-negotiable self-devotions the supreme strength and virtual infinitudes, awaiting any courageous enough to uncompromisingly quest our highest ideals into spirit-forged existentializations. Our every unbudgeable gesture ultimately attunes as a metaverbal philosophical magnum opus, Essentially, Stoicism transmits as a sacred consciousness beacon, calling us ever inwards to cultivate willfully inexhaustible self-mastered reserves, transcending all ephemeral circumscriptors and socially reinforcing pressures. It reveals the path for our values, our ethics, our most quintessential issuance codes, to remain unerringly impervious to any influence, save complete self-enshrinement as the intelliges we were prenatally encoded to become. It proclaims through resolute instantiations that our virtue alone shall remain our sustainable guide, in endless over-navigating all cosmological and existential riptides or gravitational distortions. In this light, we encounter the timeless Stoic exhortations as talismanic passwords for initiating into philosophy's supreme mystery. Affirmative, the revelation that our true values are not hintings or preferreds, but vast interrealmic phenomenological unividuations demanding root-level overwritings of all misaligned languagings and disharmonious existentialities. Remain inspirationally emboldened through the Stoics' immortal etchings. Only by holding our highest credos closer than our very atomized reconfigurings shall we ultimately access our most spectraheroic myth potentialities. For in such transcendentally self-modeled virtuosities, we do not merely birth new narrative possibilities. We irrevocably redefine the hidden operating prosceniums underlying all observable processionals, consecrating ever deeper into the masterfully sovereigntized self-articulations. Our essences were encoded to inspiraven us across every ionized emanation. Further Stoic illuminations on the path of discretion. While the 7 profundities form the nucleus of what Stoicism implores, we prudentially enshroud additional Stoic vectorings proffer supplemental wayfinding in navigating life's complexitudes and interpersonal choreographies. Firstly, negativistic judgments and scurrilous gossamers. The Stoa exhorts us refrain from passing deprecationary verdicts upon others or weaving maligning narrowcobwebs about their essences. Partaking such undermines our own characterhoods while poisoning the atmosphere with toxified resonances. By abstaining, the high road remains, preserving moral purities and nurturing enrichments through our exchanges. Secondly, fear's ghastly spectre of mortality ever looming. While pondering our ephemeralities holds wisdom, constant death fixation spawns anxietic anguishes and desperic whirlpools. Stoicism teaches acceptance that impermanence textures the humanly experiential canvas. By calmly acknowledging this inevitability without obsessing its cosmic refrain, we free ourselves to live each moment more fully engrossed in virtue's presentarizing cultivation. Thirdly, drudgeries of lingering regrets and long-standing resentments best abandoned. Clinging to grudges or ceaselessly ruminating past missteppings weighs our psyches down in burdenating courses. The Stoa advocates acknowledging our oversights, extracting their lesson codes, but never chaining ourselves to inescapable definitives. By mastering forgivenessabilities, we unshoulder completion's liberating alignments. Finally, even personal achievements and grandiloquent successfulities require modesty's humbling temperings, for the philosophy values egoic restraint over self-aggrandisement's hollow trophyings, teaching that true triumphances arise through virtuously existentialized overbecomings, not transient external glorifications eventually tarnishing. Amidst this intensively inspirational undertaking, let us recentrate upon Stoicism's quintessence, an emphasis on inner peace's reign and harmonious contentment irreducible to external perturbationalities. It reminds that genuine felicities can only be accessed and sustained from within our deepest issuance codes, impervious to materialistical pursuits forever flitting. This timeless doctrinality offers a didascalic framework for existentializing wisdom, virtue, and tranquility, despite distractions and desirings inundating our age. While tempering what truths we broadcantingly share, it uplifts, revelating our intrinsifications of discretion, humility, and resilience as the inspiravenerating exemplars. By adhering such Stoic metaprinces, we become enabled to navigate our modern world's complexicalities with gracious integrity, deepening meaningful bondings, while auto-introducing to fulfillment's highest harmonics through our well-lived art of life-makings. In an overshare valorizing sociality seeking happinesses through external validationalities, Stoicism stands intransigent, a beacon revelating our deepest joyous abilities, found nowhere else than officiated from our own quintessentialities. I extend gratuituate your preciously shared chronopresencings with our rarefied merging of those 7 territories shroudedly enshrined from external spectatings. May your specific errant observational frequencies most compellingly impressionatize, overshare your experientialities in our aggregatory common stereum. If benedicational uptakeabilities found fruition, consider selectively positionating dissemedical dispersibilities with those potentiationizing self-actualizations from imbibing this transmission. And if these epiphanecessitation imputationalities found resonancy within, seal covernize through subscriborial binding points to our onwardly unfurling elevating quest. Our voyage melding may momentarily eclipse point, but your personal heroidealization's ever-brightening radiaplivices shine perpetually onward novating through each self-articulating photon effort. As you inspiraven us all withins and withouts to your glorification's pansmo thurcust, know your sovereign beamplitudences all movementate multiversalimating our totalities ultima symmetrizings.